It's the early hours of March 25th, just 150 kilometers from Tehran, deep inside what is widely considered Iran's absolute strategic safe zone in the Kasvin region. A highly classified military-industrial complex is about to become a target. Down in the command bunkers, radar operators might be catching fleeting anomalies on their screens, scrambling to chase dozens of false targets across the grid. But what they don't realize is that the actual destruction is already seconds away from impact. When the massive explosions finally tear through the night sky, the terrifying question for the defense establishment isn't simply what is happening, it's how did a target this heavily shielded just get wiped out? Because this wasn't some expendable ammunition dump on a distant border. This was the Shahed Shafi Zard industrial complex, a vital artery and the very backbone of Iran's advanced ballistic missile program. What makes this strike so unprecedented isn't just the sheer scale of the physical devastation, it's how the attack was flawlessly executed from thousands of miles away, completely bypassing natural mountain shields and a dense, multi-layered air defense network. To understand why the events of this single night shook an entire military system to its core, we first need to look at what this facility actually was, and why its survival was supposed to be guaranteed. To comprehend the true magnitude of this event, you have to look at a map. The targeted facility was located in the Kasvin region, just 150 kilometers from Tehran. In military terms, this isn't the periphery, this is the inner sanctum. Striking Kasvin is essentially striking at the very shadow of the capital. It means the attack didn't just cause physical damage, it shattered the psychological safety net of the entire defense apparatus. But the true value of Kasvin wasn't just geographical, it was industrial. The Shahed Shafi Zard industrial complex was far more than just an ordinary military factory. Operating under the umbrella of the Aviation Industries Organization, this massive complex formed the absolute backbone of the IRGC's advanced ballistic missile program. We are talking about highly secured laboratories dedicated to developing solid fuel technology. We're talking about specialized workshops processing the aerodynamic composite materials of missile structures, and sterile clean rooms where precision gyroscopes, the very brains guiding these weapons, were calibrated. This wasn't merely an assembly line feeding today's battlefields. It was a critical R&D hub where future conceptual designs advanced to the prototyping phase. A facility of this caliber operates as a living ecosystem. It is an accumulation of highly specialized engineers, decades of manufacturing know-how and testing infrastructure. When a complex like this is leveled, you aren't just burning through existing inventory, you are burning through time. The destruction of this center signifies the physical eradication of an invaluable engineering legacy accumulated over many years. You are severing the production tempo and crippling the system's ability to regenerate its arsenal. Which brings us to the most unsettling question for Tehran. If this facility was the crown jewel of their military-industrial complex, normally operating under the full protection of the capital's air defense system, how exactly did the attackers slip right through the net? To answer that, we have to rewind the clock and look far beyond Iran's borders. The operation didn't begin with a sudden explosion. It started as a colossal air armada coordinated from one end of the world to the other. According to open-source data, the main strike force consisted of B-52H Stratofortress bombers launching from as far away as RAF Fairford in the UK or the Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean. This was a grueling distance of approximately 4,200 kilometers. A 10 to 12-hour non-stop operation of this magnitude could not have succeeded without a flawlessly synchronized ballet of in-flight refueling, supported by KC-135 and KC-46 aircraft high above the clouds. But here is the critical strategic twist. Despite flying halfway across the world, these heavy bombers never entered Iranian airspace. They didn't need to. Modern standoff warfare isn't about flying a bomber directly over a heavily defended target like it's 1944. It's about projecting precision firepower from well beyond the reach of the enemy's anti-access area denial systems. You don't need to breach the fortress walls if you can snipe the target from the next mountain over. And that brings us to the most crucial phase of the mission. The real first strike of this operation wasn't kinetic, it was entirely electronic. Before the physical weapons even arrived, The US and Israeli air forces employed an intensive electronic warfare concept. It is highly likely that an advanced vanguard, platforms like the EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft and F-35A stealth fighters, deployed in the first wave. Their mission wasn't to drop bombs, but to utilize signal jamming tactics capable of blinding enemy radars before penetrating deep into the airspace. By the time the operators of the vaunted S-300 search radars looked at their screens, all they would see were massive clouds of interference, losing their ability to lock onto targets within seconds. In modern combat, whoever controls the electromagnetic spectrum controls the battle. Because once you force a defense system to see the wrong picture, or see it too late, the physical strike has already won half the war. Imagine being inside that command bunker. The screens aren't blank, they are lying to you. By injecting an electronic fog into the defense grid, the attacking force didn't need to destroy the radars immediately. They only needed to confuse the lock-on sequence, compressing the operator's reaction time from comfortable minutes down to a few frantic seconds. And while the operators were distracted by ghosts in the sky, the real killers were slipping in through the basement. Iran's rugged terrain, the Zagros and Elburz mountain ranges, was supposed to be an impenetrable natural shield. Instead, the attackers weaponized it. The low observable cruise missiles utilized a tactic called terrain masking, gliding through the valleys in the radar shadows where the S-300's eyes simply couldn't reach. By the time the defense systems recognized these incoming threats weren't glitches, it was over. The weapons were already in their terminal phase. We are looking at a highly coordinated swarm of stealth cruise missiles alongside precision-guided 2,000-pound JDAMs. This wasn't a blind carpet bombing, it was surgical. They didn't aim for the empty warehouses, they aimed for the jugular, the production lines, the chemical storage, and the delicate guidance labs. When a bunker-busting warhead pierces a reinforced concrete roof, the initial hole isn't the real danger. It's what happens a fraction of a second later. The detonation inside a sealed underground space creates a massive surge in internal overpressure. The building doesn't just collapse, it is violently torn apart from the inside out. Machinery, casting molds, and highly volatile rocket propellants instantly turn into deadly shrapnel. For the engineers, technicians, and security personnel on the ground, this wasn't a strategic concept. It was a sudden, apocalyptic reality. The massive secondary explosions captured on leaked videos weren't just from the American bombs. It was the facility's own highly sensitive chemicals and solid fuels turning the complex into a self-destructing death trap, toppling surrounding structures like dominoes. By dawn, the pride of the regime's military-industrial complex was nothing more than a smoking heap of scrap. But as the fires burned over Kasvin that morning, the true casualty wasn't just the concrete, the machinery, or the stored munitions. What was permanently severed in that inferno was their future. The morning sun over Kasvin revealed more than just twisted steel and shattered concrete. To truly understand the damage, we have to look past the rubble. In modern warfare, the most devastating blow isn't just destroying what exists today, it's erasing what could have been built tomorrow. A facility like Shahed Shafi Zard isn't just a factory, it's an accumulation of time. It housed the high-security laboratories for solid fuel R&D, the precision calibration rooms for guidance systems, and the specialized engineers who held the secret sauce of Iran's ballistic deterrence. When these assets are vaporized, the war of time begins. You cannot simply order a new team of expert engineers or replace a decade of accumulated manufacturing data overnight. The production tempo hasn't just been paused, it has been severed. But the tremors of the Kasvin explosion aren't confined to Iranian soil. This facility served as a vital artery pumping advanced munitions and components to proxy forces across the region. From the Houthis disrupting Red Sea traffic to Hezbollah stationed in southern Lebanon, these groups derive their strategic teeth from the production lines we saw burning earlier. This is where the strangulation effect takes hold. Without the steady flow of high-tech components, the gyroscopes, the composite casings, the fuel stabilizers, these militia groups are forced into a state of tactical conservation. They must now use their existing stockpiles more sparingly, knowing that the replenishment cycle has been hit at its core. For the United States and its allies, this disruption provides a sudden significant window of tactical flexibility on the ground. Yet, the most profound impact may not be felt on a distant battlefield. It is simmering right now, inside the hearts and minds of the Iranian public, as the narrative of an impregnable sky begins to evaporate. A military strike is measured in tons of TNT. A strategic strike is measured in the erosion of trust. The targeted facility in Kasvin was just 150 kilometers from the heart of Tehran. For years, the rhetoric of an impregnable sky was the shield the regime used to reassure its people. But as images of the burning facility began to flood local telegram channels, that narrative suffered a physical collapse. Ordinary citizens are now asking a dangerous question. If a high-security structure right on the capital's doorstep cannot be protected, what can? This atmosphere of insecurity is spreading faster than the smoke from the ruins, turning a military event into a wave of social panic. For the elite, this vulnerability isn't just a technical failure, it's a spark that could trigger internal debates and even the risk of mutiny within the system's own ranks. The Kasvin operation is being analyzed far beyond the borders of the Middle East. In Moscow, military strategists are currently performing a post-mortem on their trusted S-300 systems. They are forced to confront the reality that their primary air defense architectures proved ineffective against modern Western electronic warfare platforms. Similarly, Beijing is drawing its own conclusions. As China models potential scenarios in the Pacific, it is now factoring in the destructive capability of the B-52's long-range standoff missiles. This operation has become a prototype for future conflicts, proving that intelligence-backed aircraft and precision munitions can yield strategic results without ever putting large-scale ground forces at risk. Thanks to in-flight refueling and smart routing, the very concept of distance has been eliminated. We are witnessing the final days of the traditional safe zone. For centuries, mountains, distance, and depth of territory provided a natural sanctuary. But in the age of asymmetric warfare, safety is no longer a geographical fact. It's a technological variable. A deterrence narrative doesn't die when you run out of missiles. It dies the moment your opponent proves they can reach into your industrial heart and sever the very hands that feed your military machine. Tehran is now facing a new reality. Their shields are gone, and the rules of the game have been rewritten under the watch of their own silent radars. What was actually destroyed in Kasvin that night went far beyond factory buildings and machinery. It can be broken down into three devastating layers. First, the military blow. A critical hub for ballistic missile production and R&D was physically wiped off the map in a single night. Second, the industrial paralysis. By severing the production lines and destroying an accumulated engineering legacy, the attackers didn't just hit a target in space. They hit Iran's future military capacity in time. And third, the psychostrategic fracture. The deterrence narrative that Tehran built over decades, the idea of an impregnable sky protected by mountains and radars, was proven obsolete under the watch of their own silent censors. Ultimately, the events at Kasvin signify a turning point in modern warfare. The destruction of the Elburz facility is a stark reminder that in an age of stealth aircraft, electronic jamming, and precision standoff weapons, the definition of a safe zone has been permanently rewritten. The psychological scars left on the doorstep of the capital will likely last far longer than the physical rubble. Tehran may now be forced to chart a new course, realizing that their geographical barriers and aging shields are no longer enough to protect their strategic assets from the asymmetric realities of the 21st century. So, if even the most heavily fortified facilities can be neutralized from thousands of miles away without a single boot on the ground, what does security even look like in the modern world? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear your take on this technological shift. And to stay ahead of the curve with more exclusive strategic analyses on global power plays, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you for choosing this deep dive. I'm Han, and we'll see you in the next strategic breakdown.